Hello, everybody. It's Neil Green here again, and I'm going to go through the PowerPoint presentation from today. I'm going to try and avoid reading everything verbatim from the slide because obviously you could do that yourself, and I'll try and elaborate on points, the finer points that may help you with while you navigate this assessment that is the edTPA. And again, this first page, and you'll get a copy of this, so no need to take notes or anything. But these are relevant sites that you could go through and look and find information about the edTPA. I want to. I'm not telling you not to do that, but think of it kind of like whenever you may go look online for a medical condition. Sometimes it can scare the heck out of you because you read all this stuff and it can start to be overwhelming. Don't overwhelm yourself. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. But some of these sites are really good resources to look over for various purposes. Like this one is specific to Illinois, and this one is from Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois, which I've had some meetings and things like that with some of their edTPA coordinators where I've heard them speak about the edTPA, so they have some experience with it. And so they have some good information to check out. And then this last site is I came across. It's called the Past edTPA, Past TPA, or whatever you want to call it. You can check that out for some tips. Okay. Now, using the edTPA, and I got my notes for this document right from the edtpa.com site or whatever it was on the first page, first slide that I listed for you. And it was formerly the TPA, or Teacher Performance Assessment, and it comes from Stanford University, and it's it comes from the state. It's not something, again, that Kendall College just decided to use for really to add something more for you to do. It's mandated by the state, and I believe there are 40 plus states that are using it, and it goes live right now. It's the pilot, so it goes live next time that the primary clinical practice is in offered. So this is our last chance to kind of work out some kinks, and there are some kinks, but for the most part, we've got this down after piloting this for some time now. But what that means is, what I mean by going live is when it goes live, we have to send the scores off to a third party to evaluate your work. For you guys in my course right now, in the seminar right now, the winter 2015 term, you are evaluated by a panel of Kendall College staff and faculty. So although you have to pass it, it's not required to pass to get your license, as it will be in the future. So the stakes are high, but they're not quite as high as the students who are coming after you, if that makes sense. Okay, and it's aligned with Common Core and InTask. And you may say that the school where you work doesn't necessarily follow those standards. You'll have time, and I'll go over that in a few minutes. You'll have time in the commentary sections to provide rationale for why you did or did not include something in your lesson plan. Okay, and here's how the common architecture of the edTPA, where, as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections where planning, instruction, assessment, analysis of teaching, and academic language. And the whole purpose is to make sure that when you come out of this experience, that you're ready to go in the classroom and you have the skills that it takes to be a leader in the classroom and do these 5 crucial skills well that all teachers need to be able to do to be effective. Okay, so some terms to discuss, and these are important. There are a lot of terms that you're going to see in the edTPA through the rubrics, etc. But these 3 are important to discuss right now for what I want to accomplish today. The terms artifact, rubric, and commentary. Artifact is basically, whenever you see artifact, think evidence. An artifact is something that provides evidence that learning occurred. So let's say you want to provide an artifact that assessment occurred, that you evaluated what your students know and are able to do as a result of a lesson. That artifact comes in the form of student work. Okay, it could be a test, could be a pre-test. There are tons of artifacts that you can have, but it's equate it with evidence. All right, and if you don't have physical evidence like the actual form or activity that the students filled out, then you provide evidence in the form of commentary. A lot of sections to this whole experience, task 1, 2, and 3 of the edTPA, rely on your commentary. And as I mentioned to you early on, even before we even met, it's good to save your old textbooks for this, because by commentary, you don't want to just make a blanket statement without providing evidence. And the evidence comes in the form of in-text citations for academic writers. So you want to say, Green 2014 stated, evidence comes in the form of research-based practices. So that's not that great. But what I mean is you're going to have to go through your textbooks, find where somebody wrote about, let's say you're focusing on prior learning, which for whatever reason, that is stuck in my head. But so you're going to want to find where an expert or somebody who wrote about prior learning and how that's beneficial or not beneficial to students to tap into their previous experiences before teaching a new lesson. You want to tap into where that expert wrote about that particular concept and include that in your commentary, okay? And that provides the rationale, in other words, rationale or evidence that they're looking for. Okay, and then rubric is another term that you should be familiar with. For the edTPA experience, there are 15 of them. Holy mackerel. So sometimes the language can be a little bit, kind of bog you down, but what I've done is kind of show you what I would do if I was faced with this task and I had to do the edTPA. I'll show you some strategies that I would use, and you can choose to incorporate them or not. Okay, so the first rubric is about planning. All right, planning. And some evidence or artifacts that you can show for planning. Planning is at the heart of what we do. We do it every day, and that's where we spend most of our time as teachers. And you show evidence that you can plan through lesson plans, instructional materials, assignments, assessments, and planning commentary. Please do not just give your students a worksheet and say, read this and answer those questions. That's not teaching. You want to actually get in there, and your plans should show that you understand the content, okay? You understand what you're trying to teach them. How do you support students? What instructional strategies do you use to support all your students, not just a few? How are you going to assess where your students are at the moment? And as I mentioned earlier, some strategies that you can use, you're assessing all the time, every day, all day, and that should inform your instructional decision making. Some of the stronger student teachers that I've worked with in the past are constantly asking questions to check for understandings. Like, give me a thumbs up if you get this, 100%. Give me a thumbs sideways if you sort of understand what I'm saying. Give me a thumbs down if you don't understand at all. That's just one quick way to assess. That's not a formal assessment, but if you do those types of things throughout your lesson, then you know and you can adjust your planning and instruction to meet everyone's needs. Okay. So that first rubric is what I want to focus on right now. And again, this is what I would do for all the rubrics, because this would help me personally, and I think that it would give you a stronger product at the end. Each rubric has a key question to it, and then there are specifics embedded in the rubric, and if you look through those specifics, it can tell you exactly what you need to include to get the grade that you want. Okay? So basically, include this. It's looking for this, this, and this. And if you have them in your work, then you get that grade. All right, how do the candidates, here's rubric 1 and the key question. How do the candidates' plans support the active multimodal nature of young children's development of language and literacy? Multimodal. Okay, think of that as, keep it simple, guys. You've learned about multiple intelligences in your courses. You've learned about learning styles. I suggest starting out maybe with learning styles. That's what I would do, because there's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Okay, right? Those are the 3 learning styles. If you include some component of that in each of your lessons, then you can be confident that you're meeting the needs of all of your students rather than just a select few. All right. So what I would do is, okay, how am I going to do that? I would, what to find or ask yourself. I would look for 3 resources where I find some evidence of, what the heck does that mean? Multimodal nature of young children's development. I would include 3 resources where they discuss that learning styles, right? Or multiple intelligences, whatever you know. And here's an example of what I would create. And you could create how you can go into as much detail or just include the author and page number if you want. But why I'm doing this is because there's a lot of writing in the TPA, and again, evidence is extremely important. Citations are extremely important. This will save you valuable time whenever you go and sit down to write it. You don't have to use your textbooks, but you're familiar with them. So that's why I suggested using them. You can go and find these resources in the library or professional journal articles or Google Scholar also, and they're just as valid. I just suggested using old textbooks to save time. All right, and here's what I wrote. Tomitsky stated a child may begin using a toy telephone to pretend that she is talking on the phone. This is an example of a child using play to develop language as described by Lev Vygotsky's work. Or, if you want to get into multiple intelligences, Tomitsky 2014 discussed Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences theory and highlighted the child-centered nature of his work. Page 168. Whoops, I want to go back. Previous. Okay. And from there, you could go on to describe the intelligences and their implications on what that means for multimodal nature of children's development of language and literacy. And then you're covered. Then you have provided the evidence that is needed in order to be successful with these tasks. Does that make sense? Okay. Here are the key questions for all the rubrics. And again, there are 5 key questions, a total of 15 rubrics. So there's a lot going on. But these are the key questions, and at least gives you a place to start if you kind of start looking for evidence, as I did in the previous slides, from your text or other resources. And I don't have to read all these to you. You can read them yourself. And again, you'll get a copy of this so you can look them over in more detail. Okay, the instruction rubric, they're looking evidence that you can instruct well, or for lack of a better word, well, or that you're equipped to handle a classroom and you can provide solid instruction. Evidence comes by way of the unedited video clips, and we discussed that a lot. It has to be unedited, continuous. There may be some lag time, but you got to turn in the unedited video clip. So it's important that you tape early and often as possible to pick your best work. And then here you go, instruction commentary. You have a chance to describe why you did or didn't include certain strategies in your lesson plan or when you were teaching, or what you can describe what people are seeing in the video clips. All right, you want to be obviously positive, engaging learning. You want to have an environment that encourages students to be involved. Engagement, such a big thing, and it's huge. So you don't want them to be passive receptors of your knowledge. The less you talk, the better. You want to get them up doing things, interacting with the content, interacting with the story. Whatever you can do to get them involved and interested and get them, they also call it the hook, get them hooked, the better off you are. Okay, and this is interesting, and it's kind of vague whenever you think about it. Deepening learning during instruction. How do you know that you're doing that? What that means is you're going to want to go beyond just the surface level. Columbus sailed the ocean in blue in 1492. That's surface level. You want to go into, greater detail, higher order to thinking, like what went into Columbus getting to to sail the ocean. What troubles and trials and tribulations did they find? You want to take them from the basic level to the highest level that you can. All right, and then subject-specific pedagogy. What are some strategies that work for teaching language and instruction? What are some strategies that work for teaching math? Whatever subject you're teaching in your lesson, you want to make sure that you dig up some subject-specific learning strategies or teaching strategies that work for that particular